Hi Nirab.
Okay.
You can go ahead. Yes.
Okay, yeah, let me start then. Uh, Hello everyone. Good morning from Tallinn, Estonia. So, I'm Nirab, and today we are going to learn about mobile data collection tools. So there are like a lot of different options available when you're doing data collection mapping in OpenStreetMap, and like one important aspect is there's only so much you can do with remote mapping, right? Because OpenStreetMap and mapping is about collecting local knowledge and ground data. So you need to go in the field and collect those data. So mobile data collection allows you to you know uh, do that and get all the information from the ground itself. So there are a lot of different options for mobile data collection. So I think you guys already had one session regarding Mapillary. So that's like one of the ways of collecting ground data using Street View. So we'll see other tools and other options available within the OpenStreetMap ecosystem today as well. But before, like going into the tools itself, so there are a few things when you are involved in a mobile data collection project. So when you are doing mobile data collection, you need to be conscious about, so that your mobile data collection efforts are even more better and you do good. So so the first thing is you start with these three questions, right? So you start with when you are doing the mobile data collection, where you are doing the mobile data collection, and how you are doing the mobile data collection. So when you think about when, so think about the months, right? So for example, if you are doing the mobile data collection in summer, you might need to like give the enumerators and surveyors, uh, drink water, a lot of water bottles, caps, all of those things. So that kind of ties to different decisions and also like deadlines. So how long will you be going to the field collecting those data? So you need to think of those things when you are doing mobile. And another thing is like where. So in where, one is like how you are going to reach these areas, like are they reachable by transport, do you have to walk, if you have to walk, how much do you have to walk? And then also there is coordination between surveyors, like the enumerators, when they go there and start collecting data, like who will be responsible for collecting, like what data, which areas will they be covering. So those kind of thing you need to like develop clarity on. And then another thing is how. So who will be doing, is it like you going to the field and collecting data yourself? Will you be mobilizing volunteers? Will you be hiring people as paid staff? So those things. And then uh, will you need like additional equipment? So let's say like if you are collecting data that is supported by some kind of let's say a hydrological survey. So do you take those additional equipments with you? So, or let's say if you are going to collect data of uh, air pollution sensors located in different areas. So how do you know those locations? So those kind of things you need to figure out. And then also like how the data will come and be stored. So these three questions will help you like get an overall picture when you start out your mobile data collection uh, project. And there might be different capacity that you might be involved when you are working on a mobile data collection project. Like you might be involved in that project in different capacity. So one of that is like you might be the project manager, right? So if you are the project manager, there are few things you need to like be careful about. Some of the things like a best practice so I have covered like 4 different roles that you might be involved. So this might be one person or multiple person doing the same role, but these are like generally, when there is a mobile data collection projects, these roles come up, and there are like best practices for each of these roles. So I'll try to share best practices for each of these roles. So one is like when you are a project manager, you need to think about, like why you are doing this mobile data collection, like what's the reason, what's the goal, what do you want to accomplish. And the another thing you need to, be clear about is when you are doing the project, like what's the workflow, right? And that needs to be communicated to everyone involved, so that like there is no confusion down the line when people are starting to work. There's no confusion like, oh, who is going to do that, who is going to report to whom, like how is the data going to be uploaded. So like the workflow and the protocol needs to be defined. And then when you are doing data collection, you need to also think about like what devices will you be using, right? So if you want to take pictures, then you have to think about like some devices that will give you good resolution. So if your data that you are taking needs good quality pictures, you need to ensure that your device also has like good camera, or like if you need a good GPS, then you need to ensure like the device has good GPS. And then you need to provide different options, right? So when people are going out they need to upload that data, so they could get a SIM card, or you can have like a place where they can come to and upload the data, like where there is a Wi-Fi. So you need to think of all of those things, and then uh, always have a plan B, right? So assume that these things are not going to work, and if they are not going to work, what will be the alternate? So let's say like people cannot upload their data in the field because the connectivity is very poor. So what do you do? So always have those contingencies in your mind. And then also you need to make sure the mobile data collection is needed. So because there will be a lot of investment when you are doing this. So maybe uh, just a paper-based choice, because you need to buy those devices, all of those things. So think about that, and weigh in different options that you can do, like should you go or should you opt for a mobile data collection. So think about that, and then based on that, like make a decision that okay, this is the right choice to go ahead with the data collection. So another role that you can be involved with is as a designer, sorry designer. So especially like when you are working with open data, ODK, you need to like design other questionnaires. So when you are doing that, you need to make sure like you have as less questions as possible, but also make sure like you have enough questions to get your data. But in order to get data, like try to minimize the number of questions, and also like you know uh, be practical, right? So don't ask questions that the surveyors, the enumerators, when they go to the field, there's no way that they are going to get that kind of data. So always think like, put yourself in the shoes of the enumerators, and then kind of be practical when you are designing the survey, like in terms of what is possible to get in terms of data that you go out and in the field, and what is not possible, and then optimize the user experience, and not to have like uh, too many questions in a single screen, all of those things. And then make sure like the flow of the survey is also very good. And it's always good to have like a review, so because uh, because like once the data is submitted and it comes, then going back to the field is much more costly. So if there is a option for like survey to review and find out errors while they are in the field, so that's very good thing and can save like a lot of cost. So another thing you can be involved as is trainer. So especially when you are hiring, enumerators and sending them out, like you'll probably give them trainings. So during that training, like you need to make sure you are like varying uh, the teaching formats. So some people are like more visual learners, some people are more like like practice oriented. When they learn. So have these different kind of teaching formats when you're giving them training, and then also like have a pilot supervised pilot study where you go out with these enumerators, see them in action, where they are collecting data, see like where they are confused, and also don't assume anything like that okay, these guys are going to know these things. So you need to make sure you when you are training, you make sure like you cover each of those questions, and how to get that data, how uh, to collect that data. So all of those things you need to make sure, and then uh, make an environment where like they can ask more questions to you. So no stupid questions where questions are encouraged, and then prepare them for the worst, right? So GPS might not work, the device might, because you are working with software, and that can go wrong, like anytime. So prepare them for the worst while you are sending them out and fill. And then the final role that I'm going to cover is like you're working as a data manager, right? So you're responsible for like planning this survey together with the survey designer and making sure like whoever is supposed to get the data is getting the data. So as a data manager, do not try to like over validate things, right? So making survey too stringent, like keeping like too much validations, so that like you don't cover kind of more unique cases. So if there is a unique cases, you'll have issues when you are going out in the survey. So think about that, and think about like who is going to be using your data. So once you get that data, like who exactly is going to be using that data, and then test. So test the whole process, like from collecting the data, like getting to the data, and then disseminating the data. Like how are you going to do that? And another thing that you can like to make your life easier is like uh, so the amount of data that is coming, and then the visualization you can automate. So there are a lot of tools around ODK that helps like to do that. And also think about like who gets to see like what data, because a lot of the data that you might be collecting could be like private information. So think about like access and the permissions. So this is it. So let's go to the tools. Even for tools, you need to think about like so a lot of the tools have different capabilities, right? So some tools are good for doing something, while other tools are doing for good for other things. So this is a table where like you can see uh, you can do with different apps available for mobile data collection, right? So with ODK, you can do a lot of things, but you can't do like street view imagery or GPS tracks. So yeah, and then with Mapillary, like you can do street view imagery, but then you can do all of these things that ODK can do. So think about what do you want to uh, do, what kind of data you want to collect, and based on that, like make choice for the right tool that you need. So for today's session, like we'll be going through 4 different tools. So one is OSMand. So OSMand is like a very popular tool uh, for viewing maps and also routing, but it also allows you to like collect GPS tracks and also do editing in OSM. And another very popular tool is OSM Tracker. So OSM Tracker also allows you to collect GPS tracks and GPS points. And another very easy to use tool is StreetComplete. So StreetComplete is where you can do like attribute mapping for a lot of OSM features. And then the fourth one we'll cover is organic maps. So for organic maps, like it's also an app that allows you to view OSM maps and also edit, especially POIs and attribute data for OSM. So let's start with OSM Tracker. So OSM Tracker is a application. So it is exclusive for Android. So even the name is like OSM Tracker for Android, right? So it's kind of a app that allows you to use your phone as a GPS device. So it allows you to collect tracks, waypoints. So all you need to do to get started with OSM Tracker is go to the Google Play Store, download it, and then you can start using it. But before starting to use OSM Tracker, there are like few things you need to think about, settings that you can like work around to make sure that you are collecting the right data and you're collecting the data properly. So in order to go to the settings, so you can click on the overflow menu, and then click on settings, right? So we'll cover like these 7 different options that we have today. So the first one is the GPS logging interval. So when you are collecting a track, like what OSM Tracker does is it collects track like every few seconds. So you can define what that interval would be. So that can either in terms of like meter or seconds. So here, like in interval, you'll have you can define like how many seconds that uh, uh, GPS points are recorded. So for example, if you put like 5, the GPS points are recorded every 5 seconds, every other 5 seconds. And then the second one is like, where do you want to store all of these tracks? So once you start the tracking, so you'll collect a lot of different things like photos, voice notes, also like the track itself, the waypoints. So all of these need to be stored. So if you don't much space, so you can use like external storage, SD card in your phones, and store that as well, and then you can define which folder you want to store that. And then another thing is like when you are storing those things, like you can have a separate directory for each of those tracks. So for example, I do a track today, so there will be and all the associated photos or voice notes will be stored in the same folder for that. Or and then when I do a next track, let's say later today or tomorrow, then this option will allow to create a separate directory. So there will be one directory each for each of the track that you uh, uh, create. And then another is like file name. So you can have you can define like a format for the file name, so that it's easier for you every time when you do. And then another is like when you are tracking, you can have the option to have the screen on or off. So sometimes what happens is a lot of uh, the the Android operating system, they kill the apps if they are working in the background. So sometimes you might want to have the screen on when you are tracking, but then the trade-off that you get is if you have your screen on, you'll be using a lot of battery, so that will eat up your battery. And then another thing is you can select, so you can preview the tracks that you collect in OSM Tracker. And when you are previewing the 6th and 7th option that you see here, it allows you to select which map tiles that you want in the background while you are previewing those tracks. So in order to start tracking, it's very simple. So you just press the plus button and it starts tracking. So uh, so mm, mm, so the thing you have to notice is when you immediately press the plus button, the buttons are still disabled. So it only starts tracking once there is a good GPS fix. So when it's waiting for a GPS fix, the buttons will be disabled. So once it has a GPS fix, it will also show what's the accuracy of the GPS fix that it's getting, and then after that all the buttons will be enabled. So then you can also start recording waypoints after that. So and then once you start recording, it keeps on recording. You can go around and track your path, and then later when you end, you just stop the track, stops tracking. So two waypoints that are very helpful is photos and notes. So you can use your camera, or you can select photo from your gallery. What it does is when you click that take photo, it will take the GPS point for that specific time, location that you are uh, uh, staying, and then attaches that location the photo that you are taking. And similar with notes. So when you click on the take note, so it records waypoint for for the uh, for the place where you clicked the take note button where you are standing, and you can record like different information on that uh, location. So you can take photo, or you can take notes that are attached to a geolocation, and later we'll see it can be used as a reference to map. So once you are done collecting all of these waypoints, so you can see if you click on the overflow menu and if you click on waypoints, you will be able to see all of the data that you collected. So here in the example, we can see lots of photos that have been collected. And if you click on display track, uh, so we can also see that overlaid in the map that we selected previously. So here you can see where you are, and all the stars are the place where the waypoints were collected. So in order to take the data from OSM tracker to your computer, what you need to do is you need to export it as GPX. So once you you'll have all of these track lists. So if you long press on one of those tracks, so you'll get the option to export as GPX. So if you export, click on export as GPX, it will be ready to bring that data to your computer and start editing in OpenStreetMap. So another option that you can do is you can make your GPS tracks available to everyone in the world, so that they can also use it for the editing. So you can directly upload it as a GPS point to OSM. For this, you need to be logged into OpenStreetMap using your OpenStreetMap credentials. So yeah, so this will be your option to upload, and then you can make it either private or public. So you can make it available just for yourself when you upload it to OpenStreetMap, or you can make it available for everyone as well. But it will be uploaded to the OSM servers as a GPS track, so that you can use it later as well. So let's see how to get this into the computer. So once you do the export, you can connect your phone to your PC, and then you'll get this OSM tracker file folder, and inside that folder you'll have, you know, different folders. If you have selected the option that I showed previously, like you'll have different folders for all of these tracks that you have collected. And if you go inside the folder, there will be few things. So one, there will be a GPX file. So the GPX file contains all of the tracks and the location data, and then there will also be, you know, voice clips if you have taken any voice clips, or photos, images if you have taken any images. And you can copy this folder into your computer, and then you can use it with JOSM. So with JOSM, it's very easy. So you can open your JOSM, and then you can go to File, and then Open, and then you can select the GPX file, and it will load the OSM data. So it'll load, it'll zoom to the extent of the GPX file that you have, and it'll display the GPX file. So here you can see like where are the places you took the photos, where are the places where you took the voice notes. So if you have taken any text note, the text notes will also be shown here. And now, like in addition to, like, you know, the satellite imagery that you have, you also have another reference point to start editing OpenStreetMap. So this is it about OSM tracker. So let's move on to StreetComplete. So another tool that's quite popular and very easy to use is StreetComplete. So I think StreetComplete is also only available for Android. So right now it's not available for iOS. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to map attributes for different different. You can, you know, just answer that question so that the data is collected. For example, if a road is mapped but the road does not have a name, so it'll ask you saying like, do you know the name of this road? And then you can, you know, enter the name of the road. So it's attribute data collection tool for OpenStreetMap. So in order to get started with StreetComplete, it's also very simple. You just go to the Google Play Store, and you can install StreetComplete. So uh, once you you know, like, install the application, so you can click on the overflow menu, and then you can go to the settings and server, where you can configure your OSM account, so that, you know, later when you start contributing through StreetComplete, like, the data will also be uploaded to your OSM account. So here, like, there is a GIF of StreetComplete in action. So you open the app shows you, you know, different questions, right? So there are different options that you can select. So you can see, like, you know, there are different markers there. So if you each of these markers are representing like different questions that can be asked, and you can select what kind of questions that you'd like to be asked. So you can select, you know, like, if you go to settings, and then if you go to, like, you know, question selection, you'll see, like, you know, all of the different ways you can contribute to StreetComplete. and you can select like which are the questions you want to answer when you are using StreetComplete, and based on that, you will be shown only the relevant completion tasks. So that's it for StreetComplete. So let's move to organic maps. So organic maps is also like an app where you can download the OpenStreetMap data and then use it as a map for in your mobile phone. So it will give you offline maps and also offline routing and navigation as well. So it will also give you like turn by turn navigation with voice navigation, and all of these you can have it online. And one additional thing you can do, like, because today we are concerned with data collection, so it allows you to add attribute data to the map as well. So uh, so for so this organic maps is available for both iOS devices and Android devices. So you can install it through Google Play Store or Apple Store, like whichever device you have. And once you have that, like, you'll be prompted to download the data for your region, and then once you download that data, you'll see like the map as shown in the screen. So what you need to do before starting to contribute is you need to like log in using your OpenStreetMap account here. So here, like, you can see the screen. So once you go to the settings, so there's an option to like check your OpenStreetMap profile. And if you go to the OpenStreetMap profile, you'll get an option to log into your OpenStreetMap account. And then once you log in, you'll be able to start contributing. So here, let's see like how you can map feature in OpenStreetMap. Again, there is a small demo showing like how we can map. So once you are in the field, so you can see your location. So the blue arrow is showing your location, and you can browse this offline without any internet connection. So if you click on the overflow menu, and if you click on like maps, you can see like all the downloaded maps that you have. You can also add like new locations. If you are going to somewhere, you can beforehand download the location. So in order to add a place, like, you just click on add a place to the map, and then you get this plus sign. So you take the plus sign, you move the map around so that you know where the feature is. And once you place the marker, so you select the type of the feature. So what kind of feature is it? So if it's a convenience store, you select convenience store, and then yeah, so you can add like all the details of the convenience store. So it's also pretty simple in order to work with. So the final app that we are going to cover is OSMN. So it's a very kind of a power app. So even me, like, I've used it for many years, and sometimes I'm surprised by like finding new features that is in OSMN. So it's a more I like to call it like a GIS software in a phone, right? So it allows you a lot of different things, and this is available for both Android and iOS, and it allows you, similar to organic maps, it allows you to like have offline maps, routing and navigation, and a lot of different other capabilities in your phone. So in order to like start with OpenStreetMap, you can download it from the respective Play Store or App Store, and then after that you can go and download like what your region is. So for example, if you are in certain regions, so you'll get the world overview map that has high zoom level map of the whole world, and then you have more detailed OpenStreetMap data for the region that you are in. So here you can see an example of map data that has been downloaded for Philippines. So in this, as I said, like, OpenStreetMap is able to do a lot of OSM and is able to do a lot of different things. So I like urge you guys to explore it yourself as well. But for the session today, we'll look at 3 different things that we are able to do with OpenStreetMap. So one is like, how do you collect with OSM, and how do you collect points data, and then how do you export that data. Second is like, how do you collect track, and then the third we'll look at is how do you add, edit and delete like the OSM data through OSM. And so in order to collect a GPS point, what you need to do is you need to use the favorite option. So once you click on the map, you'll get different options, and one of those options will have this star sign that says add favorite or favorite. So when you click on that, you'll get options to like enter a lot of different things. So for example, like customizing the pin color, what you exactly want to save, like what kind of group you want to save those favorites for, and then after you enter all of those information, you can click on save, and that will save your favorite. So you'll have a group of different points that you can collect, and once you have all of those points collected, later if you want to export that and take it to your laptop or your PC, then what you can do is you can go to settings, and then in the settings you'll get like in my places, and in my places, when you go to my places, you'll get list of like all the favorites that you have bookmarked, and you'll get an option to export that. So if you click on export bookmark, it'll export the bookmark so that you'll be able to like bring it to your PC. So another thing is you can also start tracking similar to like what OSM tracker did. So you can do similar thing in OSM as well, but you'll need a plugin called tracking plugin. So once you have the tracking plugin enabled, so you'll get a record in the upper left corner. So it'll show you, like that you are tracking, and then once you stop your track, you can go to menu, my places, and then you can see like what are the tracks that you have recorded, and then individual track, and then export it. So you can also add POIs, modify POIs, or delete POIs in OpenStreetMap. The OpenStreetMap data you can change the OpenStreetMap data through OSM. So in order to do that, like so you hold the POI, you go to the map, you hold the POI, and then you can select actions. In the actions, you'll see like create a POI, and in that create a POI, you'll be able to add a lot of different options. So here you'll also be able to add OSM tags, so if you know the key value. So this is much more flexible than organic maps, in a sense that in organic maps you are only able to add predefined list of options that is given to you by organic maps. But with OSM, and you are also, if you know the key value, you can map like pretty much anything that is possible to map with points in in OpenStreetMap. So another thing is you can also update or delete the POI. So similar to the previous option, so you can go to actions and then you can choose modify POI. So once you do that, either you can look at all the information, update the information, and click save if you want to update the information. If you think the POI is the wrong POI, then you can delete the POI as well. Yeah, so this is also this is for deleting. So this is for modifying. So for modifying, you see so that's it. So besides this, there are like few other notable applications as well. So so for like a lot of these applications allow you to only work with either attribute data or points. But if you want to work with in mobile, you want to work with geometries like ways or areas, then you'll need Vespucci OSM editor. So it allows you to work with the polygons as well. And there is also another option similar to StreetComplete for iOS called Go Maps. So you can look at that as well. So that's it for my session today. So thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nira. The slides will be shared so you can go through the resources. I will send it over to Ivan for ODK. Welcome, Ivan.
Hey, okay, just unmuting here, and I'm on 2 devices, so I'm just going to share my screen from my computer here. I think I can do that. Screen share. Okay, that looks like that's working. And thanks, Nirav, for that great overview of all those tools. And just sort of to mention my perception of the tools that Nirav was going through is that they're very powerful. In particular, Osmand is an incredibly powerful tool, but they're very much about I mentally model those tools as somebody had an OpenStreetMap or a geographical application, and then they added data collection. Well, Open Data Kit is kind of the opposite. Open Data Kit is a project that actually began as a project for collecting data, which wasn't spatial at all. And as time has gone on, it's become more spatially enabled. So Open Data Kit, it began as an open source project. It was started by a guy that I know really well named Yawan Akwa, and it was built to basically try to solve the problem of collecting what I call typed data. In other words, data that's not just something that you write randomly, but there's every data column has a particular type. It can be a number. If it's a number, it can be an integer number, 1, 2, 3, 4, or it can be a decimal number, 3.1415. It can be a media file. It can be text, but text formatted as numbers, like a phone number, for example. Phone numbers aren't exactly numbers in the mathematical sense, but they're composed of digits along with some other signs, the plus sign for the international numbers, sometimes brackets, sometimes dashes. So in other words, Open Data Kit, a long time before anybody ever thought to use it for mapping, was just a way to do surveys, basically, on a mobile phone. And it was so powerful that people started saying, why can't I use this for mapping? So quick, I'm not sure if people are able to raise hands in this application, but I'm very curious to know how many people here have already worked with Open Data Kit in some way or another. Is there a way to raise hands or something, Becky?
Yes, there is. We can also use the chat, I think.
Okay, so either, yeah. How about in the chat? Those of you who've used Open Data Kit before, could you please just throw a little note as if, yes, I've used ODK, or just yes, and maybe even just a tiny little sentence about what you've actually done with it. Could we all do that? I'd love to see what people's experience is. Okay, lots of yeses. Okay, so in terms of your experience, actually, one thing I'd love for you to do is tell me whether you used it as a mapper or whether you actually designed forms. So anybody who's actually designed forms, say, form design in the chat. That'll help me calibrate what I should be teaching. Okay, so we have quite a range here. Okay, so Kingsley has done form design. So we have everything from some people saying, nope, not yet, to others saying, I used it a lot, and a number of people saying form design. Okay, great. Okay. Thanks, everyone. So let's move along. I think I can see this as a slideshow. Yeah. Okay, so first off, Open Data Kit, to a first approximation, it's only available for Android. That's actually not quite true, because there is what's called a port. Somebody has written a version of Open Data Kit, which works on iPhones, but it's not completely compatible. It works okay for most surveys, but if you do a complicated survey, then it won't actually work. So to a first approximation, you can think of ODK as an Android-only ecosystem, although in some cases you can get lucky and be able to use it with iOS. It's a colossus of free software. This is this is written by volunteers. I'm a big fan of it because it's very much in the ethic of open data and free software, which is to me the OpenStreetMap philosophy is very compatible with this. And a number of you may have heard of Kobo Toolbox, and I'd just like to mention that Kobo Toolbox is actually a fork of ODK. Open Data Kit was the original project that built the Collect app and the server called ODK Aggregate. Somebody wrote another server for collecting for aggregating the data from all surveys called FormHub, written in Python. And when FormHub died for complicated reasons, it got forked by a company called ona.io, and then subsequently taken up by the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative and rebranded as Kobo Toolbox. So the Kobo Toolbox server is actually something that's maintained, developed and maintained by the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative. However, the Kobo mobile app is literally a copy of ODK Collect. Every 3 months, they have a bot that scrapes the code from ODK Collect, only changes the logos, rebrands it, and then fundraises on the back of it. Now, I consider this to be kind of bad behavior. It's not illegal. ODK is free software, which means you can, if you want, take it and rebrand it and fundraise on it yourself. But it is not good behavior to take somebody else's software and fundraise on it without contributing that much back to the original team. So I am a big proponent of using the original software, ODK Collect, because if they go bankrupt, then it will all break. Because they're the ones who developed this and who continue to maintain it. Now, I would say, the time that you need to use ODK Collect, as opposed to say Osmand or StreetComplete or Vespucci or one of the others, is when you're really doing enumeration or surveys. I mean, not surveys in the geographical sense, but let's say you're going house to house and collecting demographic information, or you're going from building to building and collecting information about the construction of the building or the roof type, the kind of data that you would need to really fill in the local knowledge. And Neeraj rightly pointed out that there's really this difference between remote mapping, where we're just creating the geometry, the polygons and lines and points of attributes on the map, versus actually adding local knowledge to them. So a line of a street is just a line, you can remote trace it, but the name of the street is local knowledge. And when you're really getting into detailed local knowledge, particularly in a kind of workflow we call enumeration, we're going from point to point or feature to feature and collecting a list of very specific typed data, this is the way to go. So how do we do it? If you're just working on ODK Collect, here's a little GIF that shows a little bit how you do it. This is from our project in Somalia. You get a QR code. It's configurable with a QR code. As soon as you scan the QR code, it connects automatically to the server. What it's actually doing behind the scenes is it's assigning you an app user ID, and that app user has access to specific forms. So as a campaign manager, you can set up, different people to do different things. You could send, one group out to map healthcare, the other group out to map education, and based on having a different QR code, even if they're in the same area, they would have access automatically to different servers. There's a couple of configurations you can do. They talk about setting the base map here. We generally set the base map to Mapbox. There is an option to set it to OSM. But Mapbox is actually OSM data, and it's there are a couple of funny idiosyncrasies with the way the OSM based map works. But basically, the Mapbox the Mapbox background is faster because it's actually vector tiles, if you know what that means. Whereas the OpenStreetMap is raster tiles, so they're a little bit bigger. They're picture files. Now, these are just sort of basic instructions for doing campaign. The QR code looks like this. When you first download ODK, it says right away, configure with QR code. After you've done that, then over here on the right, it shows what you do if you've already been using it, where you actually hit the menu button up at the top right, the 3 stacked dots. And you add a new project, and you can actually wind up eventually with a lot of projects. One of the things I wind up doing periodically is going into the settings of my phone and clearing the memory of ODK Collect. So if I have 37 different projects, when I add one, it starts getting complicated. Here's just the quick instructions. I'll share these slides later. This is the quick instructions for how you set Mapbox as the base layer. Again, Mapbox being the best one to see the OpenStreetMap layers, but also have good high performance. The actual OpenStreetMap tiles are bigger. It is also possible to have drone imagery or satellite imagery as a background. However, this is a bit complicated. So I won't get into it in this quick overview, but just make a mental note. If you ever want to actually use ODK Collect, but have satellite imagery or drone imagery in the background, it's possible. What you actually have to do is you have to create a data file on your computer, and then you provide it to the mappers via something called side loading. And we can get into that. But if you're doing, certain, particularly urban or sometimes scientific data collection, it can be really, really helpful to have actual aerial imagery instead of just a map background. But that's kind of advanced stuff. But here is really maybe the most important bit, which is the fact that ODK forms are built from spreadsheets. And this is actually a colossal accomplishment. Under the hood, these forms are actually built in a language called Java Rosa. It has nothing to do with the language Java or the island or the coffee. But Java Rosa is a survey description language, which is a variant of XML, extensible markup language. And it basically requires programming skills to be able to write. So when the whole project first started, to create a survey, you had to be able to write this dialect of extensible markup language, XML. And early on in the process, some of the ODK developers said, this is just not going to be workable for people in the communities. We have to make this more accessible. It's not just going to be software developers who want to do data collection. So they settled on using a spreadsheet file. You can use Excel, or you can use LibreOffice, the free version of a spreadsheet program on your desktop, or you can use Google Sheets, which is what I tend to use because it's very easy to share them. And so there's a link here. Again, I'll share this spreadsheet and this document later. But if we look at that. Can you see my screen? Becky, can you confirm this is visible on the devices you're looking at?
Yes, you can.
Yes, it's good.
Okay. Okay, great. So I'll ask you to take a look at this form, just to give you the sort of the typology of it. This top row here, the first row, is the columns. You absolutely must have type, name, and label. Those are the only three columns that are actually necessary. You have to have those. All the rest of these are actually optional, but I use a lot of them. So the type is what type of question is. And if you remember, I said that you can have integers or decimal numbers or text, which is in computer language, that's a string. So you can see here that row 20, for example, is what's called a range. Now that actually means it's a slider, which it's a little line that you drag your finger back and forth on, and it gives you a number. This one is an integer, which means it's for a number of floors in the building, which means it's it has to be divisible by 1. You can't have 0.5 or whatever. Other ones can be decimals or whatever. So you need the type of question. That's the first one typically. You need the name, which is actually not something the user will see. That's what the data manager is going to see. Basically, what we call in computer language the variable. This is the key, if you're thinking in key value terms, like an OSM person. These are the keys that you would be using. The label, this is the instructions to the mapper. The hint is smaller instructions in italics to the mapper. The appearance is quite important. So for example, when I say field list here, that's how I'm able to control that there's multiple questions on a single screen. And so on and so forth. This relevant, I guess, it's maybe one of the most important bits. I can specify that we're only going to ask building type if the thing that we're mapping is a building. So here it says select one, building or amenity. Are you mapping a building or an amenity? Well, if I'm not going to ask you the question building type unless you're mapping buildings. If you're not mapping buildings, then I will ask you what amenity type it is. So different question based on what your first question is. That's what we call skip logic, where you can ask a question or not based on a previous response. There's some more advanced stuff that you can do where you can actually pre-fill values from a data set. So if you, this is something our tech team and Rob is done a lot of work on. If you, for example, download a bunch of OSN buildings that you want to go visit again and edit them and add attributes to them, you can have the survey question come up, what is the name of this building? And you can actually have the name that was already in OSM pre-filled. So if you don't want to change it, you just continue on. You just swipe right, and it'll actually leave that pre-filled answer. If there's a mistake in it, you can change it, or you can overwrite it altogether. So again, out of scope of this presentation to teach you how to do that. But again, just to remember, if as a data manager or as a data quality expert at some point you would like first people to be able to go in the field and already have defaults filled out for each individual feature that they're mapping, that's actually possible. It's a very advanced use of X-forms, and it's not something that I can teach in a single half-hour presentation, but just it's important to know that it can be done. And moving right along, you can build these complex forms, asking questions based on what previous questions have been. You can put notes. You can take pictures. Those pictures are essentially automatically georeferenced. So we've got there's a community in India right now that would like to do some work with us. They have literally 50 years worth of previous work that they have done, that they've taken all the information on paper, so it's not georeferenced, and they want pictures of all of this stuff that are actually georeferenced. Well, if you want georeferenced pictures, obviously they're if you take pictures in some of the apps that Nirav was talking about, they're georeferenced by default. But ODK, obviously, you can specifically take a geo point, a GPS point, and then you can ask for an image or a photo or a voice note or whatever, and those will be, as part of the survey, automatically georeferenced and presented to you in a handy CSV form, which is very easy to import into a GIS program. Moving to the next slide here, but maybe what I'm going to do is to stop the questions. That was probably a lot to digest, so please feel free to to take a quick breath here. And oh, I see a question here. Can we pull data from one form to another, like form F1, to add data, another form S1 edit, to edit past data collected with F1? Yes. And that's from Koku Elolo Amagaibo. Yes, Koku, that is absolutely possible. It's advanced form usage, but it can be done. Another question from Shabani here. Is it possible to collect geodata into UTM format using ODK? The short answer is no. The long answer is it's possible, but you probably don't want to do that. I think if you want UTM data, the ideal solution is to just collect it using IPSG 4326, which is the GPS native coordinate reference system, which is the one that your Android phone is going to be set to by default, and then convert that into UTM using QGIS or the GIS program. That's what I would most definitely do. Okay, other questions? I'm going to put myself on mute and see if anybody has any questions, either in the chat or with your voice.
Hello.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, yes, Ivan. Thank you for your answer. But we also have another question about using ODK. I see most of the town planners they need to have more accurate data while they taking their data. But I have seen also people who using ArcGIS Survey 123 that they can connect it, the application. I mean, they can connect the device by external GPS. So I needed to know, is it possible for ODK or Android form to be connected with external devices? I mean, external GPS, like LRTK?
Yes, it is possible. So there's a couple of ways to do that. First of all, I would point out that the easiest way to do this would be able to connect to a USB or a Bluetooth external device directly from ODK Collect. And there are mobile applications that have that capacity, SW Maps being probably the best known one. We are working, there's one of the long-term projects we have, which we're hoping to get done in 2023, is a library for all open source apps to be able to connect to external GPSs. And that's something that ODK has expressed interest in. They haven't wanted to build it for themselves because it's something that could be used by a lot of open source apps. Mostly it's proprietary applications that have that capacity right now. But there is a way, and I have done it. What you have to do is you have to enter developer mode on your phone. This is a pain. This is not something you can get your average field mapper to do. On the other hand, your average field mapper doesn't have an external GPS, so in that sense, it's not that much of a constraint. You have to put your phone in developer mode. You can Google how to do that. If you Google set my phone into developer mode, it actually involves going into the information page of your phone and tapping on the build number 7 times. So it's this weird trick. Tap, 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 tap on the build number of your phone 7 times, and it says you are 3 taps, 2 taps, 1 tap away from being a developer. Once you're a developer, then you have the right to do what's called GPS spoofing. In other words, you can connect your Android phone to a Bluetooth or USB GPS, and then switch the GPS provider of your phone to the external device. So if you've got a Trimble or a Leica, or the ones I really love are the Ardu Simples. They're very inexpensive dual frequency GPSs that have extremely good resolution. We've gotten literally sub-centimeter resolution with these, and sometimes like 9 millimeters resolution, provably with statistical validation. And those can be connected again by going into the settings of your phone and becoming a developer, and then changing the location service provider to your external device. I'm very strongly hoping that in 2023, this is going to become a lot easier, and it's going to be just a matter of all of the open source apps connecting to this one library that we're looking to build that will allow you to use external GPSs. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
No worries. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, feel free to message me. Yeah, somebody's saying any documentation links available.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't have any documentation for that. I just kind of know how to do it. You can contact me, and I can help you through it. But if you Google Android phone developer mode, and then Google GPS service provider, and you can figure out how to do it. But also, I mean, all of your hot data quality interns, you have hot email addresses, and you're on the Slack, so you can always find me, and I can either connect you to somebody who knows how to do it or help you through it. Okay. Other questions? Okay, then what I would like to do is quickly discuss something called a field mapping tasking manager. Now that is, I'm gonna put a link to the blog. So I'm going to put this into the chat, and Becky, maybe I can ask you to share that as well. So this is something that we're actually working on. So we did a webinar back in September. Did anybody attend that webinar? I think maybe some of you were actually there. So anybody who's in the chat who was at that, just put a thumbs up or something, or say, yes, I was there. Where we talked about actually doing something like the hot tasking manager, but for field mapping using ODK. And we've actually started building that now. Okay, yeah, okay, so hot part, yeah. We've started building that now. We're going to be demonstrating it to the team who will be present in person in Kenya in January. And then we're going to subsequently roll it out for all the communities. So that's going to be basically a method to provide individual QR codes for every one of your mappers so that they all can do just one area at a time. Very exciting stuff. Now, there is another aspect to this that I strongly wish to share, which is a splitting algorithm. So I'm going to pop this in the chat as well, and then I'm going to quickly discuss it with you. Here is a project. Now, if you remember from the hot tasking manager, you basically get a square. Well, if you're trying to map, in the field, does it make sense to have a square that includes some areas on both sides of a river or a major highway? So basically, if you're going to be field mapping, squares don't make sense. It makes sense to divide up areas based on the roads and the railroads and the major thoroughfares and the waterways. Right now, I have a very primitive way of doing that by just splitting everything up by all of the roads. However, that gives you very inconsistent results because, some of the, in the worst case, I've had, splits where one task has literally only one building in it and another one has 900 buildings in it. Whereas what we would hope and expect is that you could set it to say, oh yeah, I want every task to have, something like 50 or 100 buildings in it. So having a range from 1 to 900 is unacceptable. So I've actually come up with the idea that we should go out to the community, reach out to the community, and see if we can figure out a way to do this. And it's not just about the programming; it's about actually defining the strategy. What's the best way for a field mapper to approach areas? What's the ideal size and shape and splitting strategy of areas? So please have a look at that document. And if you've got any ideas, give me a call because we're seeking volunteers on this project. And finally, one last point is that we're doing some piloting in DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, with this field mapping tasking manager. We're also doing some in Tanzania. We will be doing an all-staff pilot in Lake Naivasha in Kenya in January. But I would be, if there are any of you on the Data Quality Internship team who have interesting projects that could really benefit from tasking management, and that basically boils down to if you've got more than 10 mappers working on, a single area, mapping a city or a neighborhood or something, give me a call. Because I would be very much interested. It's relatively easy at this point for me to set up a project for people. And if you're capable of dealing with the ODK forms yourself to a reasonable extent, you have an interesting project, you've got a team of mappers who want to do it, give me a call. It would be great to have you work on this. And if you do, then you could perhaps also help facilitate the in-person pilot, which will be happening in Lake Naivasha in January. Okay, that's about it for that. Again, for questions, and then I'll hand back over to Becky. Questions? Okay, I hope I'm not talking into the void here. Can you still hear me?
It looks like
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was worried. I said
like
questions and then
Shabani has a question. He mentioned last question. Shabani, are you able to unmute yourself?
Bring your question, Shaban.
Yes, second. Sorry for interfering again. Yeah,
No, please. I love interruptions. I
Yeah,
love
sure.
questions.
We see that you talk about the Kobo Toolbox, the server for decay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I needed to know if is it possible if I have my local server and I needed to connect ODK with my local server instead of using Kobo Toolbox.
I'm so glad you asked that. Here are all the instructions for installing ODK Central. It is okay. I admit Kobo Toolbox and server was much better than ODK Aggregate, the old ODK server. ODK Central, the new ODK server, is head and shoulders above it. It is awesome. And we install it all the time, both locally and on the cloud. Idi Chazua from OMDTZ in Tanzania is an expert. I've done it a lot myself. Our tech team was able to do it. We actually have some ODK Central servers that operates. There's an instance in South Africa. So the answer, Shabani, is yes. If you would like to learn how to install ODK Central, reach out to me. If you have your own local server, that's perfect. It works really well. Get in touch. And it is a great server. So I have mine. I'm just going to show you quickly. Oops, I'm logging in with Rob's password. Okay, let's go back to ODK Central. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, so I've got a couple of projects here. This is actually a field mapping tasking manager project for Lake Naivasha. So there's literally there's 300 little tasks in here. But the really amazing thing about ODK Central is that you've got this app user concept where the way you set your form access is by setting up a number of forms and then setting up different app users. So within a single project, you can have, like I say, one group of people doing health and another group of people doing education. They see different forms. It always stays in sync. The configuration via QR code makes it very smooth. So it is a great server. Okay, does that answer your question? I mean,
Yeah.
the short answer is yes. Okay. Unless there are any other questions, I'm going to hand back over to you. Thank you, everyone, for your attention and interest. And I hope I hear back from a few of you who might be interested in participating in this new endeavor.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ivan. Thank you, everyone, for those constructive questions. Like Ivan mentioned, please feel free to contact him on Slack if you have any interest or if you would like to know anything more than what he has talked about. And yeah, thank you so much. This is going to be, it's recorded, so I'll share it in case you want to review it later. Thank you and bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.